Picture this. You are standing in a fluorescent lit changing room on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, yeah. We all know that lighting.
Right. It's slightly harsh. The mirror is just, I don't know, a little too tall. And you are staring at your reflection.
Setting the scene.
Exactly. And you have, let's say, exactly $300 in your checking account to last the rest of the week.
Okay.
But you are currently trying on this stunning, perfectly cut, intricately woven red dress. And it costs $700.
That is a problem.
It is a huge problem because the calculator rational part of your brain is just screaming at you, is running the numbers, looking at the rent that's due next week and saying, absolutely not.
The math literally does not work.
The math does not work. The brain says, take it off. But your body says yes.
Yep.
Your pulse is a little faster. Your fingers are tracing the fabric. You walk out to the register, you swipe the card, and you buy it.
I mean, that specific collision, that clash between rational restraint and just overwhelming desire is something almost everyone has experienced at some point.
Totally.
But we usually just brush it off, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, there's a moment of weakness or a lapse in judgment or, retail therapy. We very rarely stop to ask what forces are actually colliding in that split second of decision.
And that is exactly what our deep dive is going to do today. We are taking that perfectly ordinary Tuesday afternoon purchase, that exact moment at the cash register, and we're using it to open up a massive, mind-bending, philosophical rabbit hole.
It is a deep rabbit hole, too.
It really is. We're exploring a truly intense, provocative text today. It's called Sacred Excess by Max and Claude. And our mission today is to figure out what is actually happening in that changing room.
Right, how that single impulsive swipe of a credit card connects to, well, the deepest hidden mechanics of human psychology and our entire modern society, really.
Yeah, and the authors Max and Claude, they pull this off by synthesizing three very distinct, notoriously difficult frameworks.
They really do. To understand the physical urge to spend, they look at Georges Bataille. He's all about theories of energy and bodily excess.
Right.
Then, to understand the psychological boundaries we cross when we look in that changing room mirror, they bring in Kristeva. Her theories focus on borders and the messy reality of the human form.
And then there's the third one.
Yes. Finally, to understand why that exact dress was even in the store to begin with, they incorporate Nick Land's analysis of cybernetics, algorithms, and accelerating systems.
But before we really get into the mechanics of these ideas, we do need to set some parameters for this conversation, Art.
We definitely do.
Because this text explores some incredibly intense critiques of modern society. Nick Land's theories, in particular, involve some highly controversial anti-humanist and accelerationist politics.
Yeah, his work is heavily debated.
Very much so. So we want to make it explicitly clear to you, the listener, that we are not taking political sides here. We are not endorsing these viewpoints at all.
Exactly. Our role today is strictly to act as impartial guides. We just want to unpack the fascinating and, let's be honest, sometimes deeply uncomfortable ideas presented in the original source material.
Right, just so you can understand the arguments being made. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to figure out why you buy a dress you absolutely cannot afford, the book argues we basically have to throw out traditional economics entirely.
Throw it right out the window.
Yeah, it's not about supply, and it's not really about demand, it's about energy. And that takes us into the world of Georges Bataille.
So traditional economics basically assumes that human beings act rationally, right? To maximize their resources.
Like saving up for winter.
Exactly.
Yep.
We gather wealth to survive and to make our lives safer. But Bataille flips that entirely on its head with a concept he calls the accursed share.
The accursed share. It sounds ominous.
It does. His core argument is based on a kind of biological physics. Every living system, like from a plant to a tiger to a whole human society, absorbs energy from the sun. But a system always, inevitably, absorbs more energy than it strictly needs for basic survival and growth.
So there's always leftover juice.
Right. This creates a surplus, a massive, volatile excess of energy. And here's the crucial mechanism. This excess cannot be saved indefinitely. It absolutely must be spent.
It has to go somewhere.
It must be burned off, or the system will literally choke on its own surplus.
So it's like a pressure cooker.
Yes.
If we don't actively blow off steam through what we might call unproductive spending, the pressure builds up and the system explodes catastrophically, like in a violent war.
A catastrophic explosion is the ultimate consequence of unspent energy, yes. Historically, ancient and traditional societies understood this pressure instinctively.
How so?
Well, they built social release valves to burn off the excess safely and deliberately. Think of the indigenous communities of the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, with the potlatch.
Exactly, the tradition of the potlatch. Leaders would gather and deliberately destroy their own wealth.
Like, literally destroy it.
Yeah, burning mountains of blankets, sinking valuable canoes, just to demonstrate their power and burn off the community's surplus.
Wow.
Or look at medieval Europe. They poured centuries of labor, vast amounts of gold, and immense human calories into building colossal, towering cathedrals.
Right, which don't actually do anything practical.
Exactly. From a strict survival standpoint, a cathedral is completely useless. It doesn't feed anyone. It doesn't protect you from the winter.
It's just a big stone building.
Right. It is pure, glorious expenditure. It is the community collectively exhaling its excess energy into something sacred.
But wait, I have to push back here. I mean, I get the cathedral, I get the potlatch. Those are massive cultural events.
Sure.
Is the book really arguing that me maxing out my credit card at a mall on a Tuesday afternoon is the modern equivalent of a sacred religious sacrifice? That feels like a huge stretch.
Well, modern consumerism is undeniably a degraded, isolated version of those rituals. We don't have grand community festivals for wealth destruction anymore, unfortunately.
Oh, it'd be fun.
It would be. But Bataille's argument is that the underlying structure of the sacred urge remains exactly the same.
The structure is the same.
Yes. The sacred isn't about being pious or good. It is about the deliberate, thrilling loss of resources. It is a transgression against the boring, calculating rules of ordinary life.
Oh, interesting.
When you buy that $700 dress, you aren't doing it because you need clothing to stay warm.
Right.
You're doing it specifically because it hurts your bank account.
Because it's a bad idea.
Yes. You are entering an economy of pure loss. For that one split second at the register, you are completely free from the suffocating anxiety of saving for the future. You are sacrificing your resources just to feel undeniably powerfully alive in the present moment.
You feel alive because you're breaking your own rules. Bataille uses this incredibly vivid image for this, right? The acephal.
Yes, the headless figure.
Right, the headless figure. When you're standing in that changing room, you're calculating head-like. The rational governor that tracks your budget and worries about next month's rent is briefly overthrown by the body. The body doesn't care about the future. It just desires the feeling of the silk, the rush of the purchase, the thrill of the loss. The body essentially cuts off the head and takes control.
The head demands preservation, but the body demands expenditure. And in the changing room, the body wins.
It totally does.
But the book doesn't stop at the moment of the purchase. It zooms in on what happens immediately after the woman, who the authors simply refer to as A, by the way.
Right, just A.
Yeah, it zooms in on what happens right after A actually puts the dress on.
This is a phenomenal detail in the text. She puts the dress on, and the way the neckline is cut reveals a very specific flaw.
A very human flaw.
Yeah, she has a faded white scar on her collarbone from a childhood bicycle accident. And the beautiful, perfect, expensive red dress suddenly frames this old, damaged physical tissue.
It highlights it.
Yeah, it forces her to look in the mirror and confront the messy, unmanageable, scarred reality of being a physical human body.
Which introduces the psychological mechanics explored by Julia Kristeva. Kristeva built her career on a concept known as abjection.
Abjection.
Right. To understand abjection, we have to look at how human beings form an identity in the first place. When we are infants, we don't know where our body ends and the world begins.
Everything is just one big blur.
Exactly. So to become an individual, a clean and proper self, as she calls it, we have to draw a border. We have to violently expel everything that reminds us we are just messy, leaking, decaying biological matter.
So abjection isn't just about encountering something gross like spoiled milk or a dirty bandage on the sidewalk.
No, not just grossness.
It's about encountering things that threaten the borders we've built to feel safe.
The abject is whatever disturbs identity, system, and order. It is the in-between, the ambiguous, the composite.
So the scar is abject.
Yes, a scar is abject because it is a permanent reminder that the body can be broken. Bodily fluids are abject because they cross the boundary from inside the self to outside the world.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. We spend massive amounts of energy maintaining these psychological borders. We do it to convince ourselves we are permanent, rational beings, not just vulnerable animals destined to decay.
The book makes this brilliant, almost funny observation about our plumbing to illustrate this.
Oh, the bathroom part.
Yes. It describes the modern residential bathroom as the cultural unconscious made architectural. Think about it. We literally construct a hidden room in the center of our homes
With a locking door.
with a lock. We install loud exhaust fans, we use complex porcelain plumbing and chemical deodorizers. All of this infrastructure exists to banish the undeniable daily fact that our bodies process waste.
We hide it from ourselves.
We do. We build the illusion of our pristine modern identities quite literally on top of a hidden subterranean network of our own expelled biology.
The bathroom is basically the border patrol of the domestic space. But what the authors do next is scale that exact same psychological mechanism up, from the individual apartment to the entire geography of the city.
Yes. Let's walk through that scene. A few hours after buying the dress, A is walking down the street.
She's feeling good.
Yeah, she's carrying her shopping bag, feeling good, maintaining her pristine identity. And she walks past an unhoused man who is sleeping directly on the concrete sidewalk.
The book describes her reaction in such minute detail here.
It really does. She doesn't gasp or run away or anything dramatic. She does a micro-aversion.
A microversion.
Yeah. It's just a slight tightening of the torso. Her step quickens by like a fraction of a second. Her gaze shifts just 2 degrees to the left to avoid eye contact.
What's fascinating here is understanding the mechanics of that specific bodily tightening. That unhoused man represents the city's abjection.
Right.
He is the human excess that the urban system failed to process, hide, or expel. The physical tightening A feels in her chest isn't necessarily a conscious moral judgment.
It's not like she's thinking, I am better than him.
No, it is her psychological border patrol slamming the gates shut. She tightens up because the line between her managed self, the successful woman with the shiny new dress and the locked apartment door, and the unmanaged reality of the man sleeping on the pavement is terrifyingly paper thin.
I want you, listening right now, to really think about that specific tightening feeling. Think about the last time you walked through a crowded city and encountered something messy, unpredictable, or uncomfortable on the street.
We all do it.
We do. That visceral discomfort, that urge to look away and walk faster, is exactly what Kristeva means by the abject. It's your brain desperately trying to maintain your clean, proper boundaries.
It's a defense mechanism.
It is. It's the horrifying, flashing realization that you are actually made of the exact same vulnerable flesh as the reality you are trying so hard to ignore.
And it is exhausting to maintain those borders. But this brings us to a critical pivot in the book's argument.
Okay, lay it on us.
So we have examined the internal biological urge to spend excess energy. And we have looked at the psychological borders we constantly defend to maintain our identity. But there's a massive invisible variable we haven't accounted for yet.
Which is?
Why did A want that exact red dress? Why did she want it at that exact moment on a Tuesday afternoon?
Right. I can say, my primal body overthrew my rational head to make a sacred expenditure, but the dress didn't magically appear in my hands.
Exactly.
I was walking past a specific store with a specific winter display, or more likely these days, I was scrolling past a specific targeted ad. How does the external world interact with my private internal desire?
To explain that, the authors introduced the framework of Nick Land. Now, Land offers a perspective on modern capitalism that is radically different from how we usually talk about economics.
Right.
He doesn't view the system as a human conspiracy. There is no smoky back room of evil CEOs pulling the strings to force you to buy things.
So no guys in suits rubbing their hands together.
Right, no guys in suits. Instead, he views capitalism as an autonomous, cybernetic intelligence.
Okay, cybernetic intelligence sounds a little like science fiction. Let's ground that. What does it actually mean in the context of the changing room?
A cybernetic system is simply any system that uses its own output as an input to self-regulate. Like a thermostat is a cybernetic loop.
Oh, okay.
It measures the cold, turns on the heat, measures the heat, and turns it off. That's a negative feedback loop. It seeks stability.
Right, it wants to keep things the same.
Exactly. But Land argues that global capitalism is a positive feedback loop. It doesn't seek stability at all. It seeks infinite acceleration.
It just wants to go faster and faster.
Yes. It ingests human desire, uses it to create new technologies, which create new desires, which generate more data, which feeds back into the system to make it move even faster. The system itself is the intelligence, and human beings are just the biological components it uses for fuel.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the book maps this perfectly onto A's purchase. The algorithm didn't just passively put a piece of red fabric in a shop window and hope she walked by.
No, it was active.
Very active. It orchestrated the encounter. It had been tracking her data for years. It modeled her browsing behavior. It analyzed the micro-hesitations she made while scrolling through social media.
The micro-hesitations, that's so creepy.
It is. And it specifically targeted her during what the book calls her mid-afternoon dip.
The algorithm mapped her biological rhythms. It knew that around 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, her blood sugar would be slightly low. Her cognitive fatigue from work would be high.
So her defenses are down.
Completely down. Her rational head's ability to govern her impulses would be at its absolute weakest. The cybernetic system didn't just satisfy a pre-existing demand for a dress. It manufactured the demand at the precise millisecond. Her psychological borders were defenseless.
The system knows her desires better than she does. It knows her vulnerabilities better than she does. But wait, if we know this is happening, why can't we just opt out?
Opt out.
Yeah, like if A reads this book, realizes she's being manipulated by a cybernetic positive feedback loop, and decides to fight back by boycotting the fast fashion store, doesn't she beat the system?
That is actually the most chilling part of Land's framework, the illusion of the outside.
The illusion of the outside.
Yes. The system is so vast and so adaptable that there is no action you can take that it cannot ingest and monetize. Let's say A feels guilty about the red dress. She decides to become a radical, ethical consumer.
She is completely green.
Right. She only buys zero-waste, locally sourced, hyper-sustainable clothing. Well, the cybernetic machine doesn't care. It simply notices her new data points, absorbs her political resistance, and sells her rebellion right back to her at a premium markup.
Wow.
Her critique of the system becomes a new market demographic. Her resistance is just a new flavor of fuel for the acceleration.
It's like thinking you're escaping the casino by walking away from the blackjack table and deliberately playing the ethical, fair trade slot machine in the corner.
That is exactly it.
You might feel like you're making an independent moral choice to stick it to the man. But the casino doesn't care which lever you pull. You are still standing inside the building. You are still plugging quarters into a machine.
And you're still paying for the electricity.
Exactly. The house still wins. The feeling of making a rebellious choice is just a feature provided by the casino to keep you from walking out the front door.
The cybernetic loop actually requires your feeling of independence. Consumers who view their purchases as profound expressions of their unique identity are far more efficient spenders than people who just buy what they need.
So our rebellion is profitable.
Highly profitable. Your desire to be an individual is the most lucrative data point the machine possesses.
So what does this all mean? We are constantly generating excess energy that we have to burn off. We are trapped in decaying, leaking bodies, desperately trying to maintain our psychological borders against the messy reality of the world.
Yep.
And our very desires to feel alive are being harvested by an inescapable, accelerating cybernetic machine that turns our rebellion into profit.
It sounds bad when you say it all at once.
It sounds terrifying. How are we supposed to survive the ordinary Tuesday? How does A wake up the next morning and just live her life?
It does sound incredibly bleak when we lay out the macro theory.
Yeah.
But the brilliance of Max and Claude's book is that it doesn't end in despair.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it answers this massive systemic trap by zooming all the way back down to the hyper-local, radically human scale. It abandons the idea of defeating the machine, because the machine is simply too big. Instead, it looks for what it calls the sacred remainder.
The sacred remainder. And the climax of the text illustrates this beautifully, doesn't it?
It really does.
It happens a few days after the purchase. A Salado actually wears the $700 red dress, but she doesn't wear it to a glamorous club or a high-stakes meeting or anything. She wears it to a very ordinary dinner party at a small, cramped restaurant with 7 of her closest friends.
It's a very grounded scene.
Very grounded. They are sharing plates of food, spilling a little wine, talking over each other. And during a lull in the conversation, one of her friends mentions her mother, who's quite old. The friend just looks down at her glass and says softly, "She's getting smaller."
And the text notes that the entire table goes completely quiet.
Just a heavy shared silence.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we find our answer. That specific silence is the sacred remainder. It is a moment of pure, uncommodifiable intimacy.
Uncommodifiable.
Yes, it is a true Bataillean expenditure, the giving of profound emotional attention and presence to another human being's grief.
But why can't the machine harvest that?
Because the cybernetic algorithm requires data to accelerate. It needs action, transaction, output, or at least a digital trace.
Mm.
It can model A's shopping habits, sure, but it cannot scale, predict, or monetize the singular, unrepeatable weight of 7 friends sharing the terrifying reality of mortality over a bowl of pasta.
That makes sense.
The machine only processes the general. It is entirely blind to the singular.
And to explain how we move forward with this realization, the book introduces its final overarching metaphor, which is compost.
Right, compost. The cybernetic system of capitalism operates on a strict linear logic. It extracts raw materials, produces a commodity, pushes you to consume it, and then discards the waste into a landfill.
Just a straight line.
A straight line pointed infinitely upward toward acceleration. But biological reality, the truth of the human body and the earth itself, does not operate on a line. It operates as a garden.
A garden.
Yeah, composting is the intentional, necessary breakdown of old material to create fertile soil for new growth. It actually requires decomposition.
So the $700 impulse purchase at the mall, the faded white scar on her collarbone marking a moment of childhood pain, the inevitable fading and fraying of the red silk fabric as she wears the dress over the next decade, the heartbreaking reality of her friend's mother aging and getting smaller. The book argues that none of these things are trash to be expelled, right? And they aren't data points to be optimized either. They all break down, they lose their original shark forms, and they compost into the rich, complex soil of an ordinary human life.
You asked earlier how we survive the system. The authors propose a radical kind of purposelessness.
Purposelessness, like doing nothing.
Basically, yeah. The capitalist machine only understands utility. It demands that you constantly produce, consume, optimize your routine, or even optimize your political resistance.
Always be doing something.
Exactly. Therefore, simply sitting in a room, breathing, and refusing to be useful is a profound act of friction. When you sit and simply experience the unrepeatable fact that you are a living organism, you produce nothing, you solve nothing. And in that moment of pure presence, you are completely invisible to the machine.
It is genuinely incredible how these massive theories weave together into a single cohesive fabric. A random Tuesday shopping trip to buy a red dress turns out to be a profound window into our nature.
It really is.
It reveals our primal, ancient urge to burn off our excess energy, straight from Bataille. It forces us to confront our desperate psychological attempts to defend the borders of our identity against the messy, abject reality of the physical body, thanks to Kristeva.
And land.
And it maps the inescapable, accelerating cybernetic loop that harvests our deepest desires, exactly as Land predicted.
Yet when you strip away the dense academic theory, the core message is surprisingly simple.
What is it?
It is about the power of being present. It is about the shared quiet at a dinner table. It is the willingness to let the old, rigid versions of yourself decompose, to let your perfect ideals compost so that something new and grounded can actually grow.
We want to leave you with one final thought from this deep dive, a small physical detail to explore on your own. Toward the very end of the text, there is a tiny observation about A's body. The authors note that when she stands still, she holds her left shoulder just a fraction of an inch higher than her right.
It's a completely unconscious muscle tension.
Completely unconscious. She has been doing it for 23 years, constantly, invisibly guarding that old bicycle wound on her collarbone. It is a physical expenditure of energy that she doesn't even know she is spending every single day of her life.
We all have something like that.
We do! Take a second right now, wherever you are listening to this. Really feel your own posture. Where is your physical body holding its tension? What old, uncomposted history is your physical flesh silently guarding against right now, completely undetected by your rational, calculating mind?
Worth figuring out.
Think about that the next time you find yourself standing in a fluorescent-lit changing room.